It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from the Buckeye State.
The Buckeye State. Get out of here with that shit.
I used to live here.
I know, but I was never a Buckeye fan, and I don't know.
I wasn't talking. Oh, God, this is like how sensitive you Michigan people are. I wasn't talking about sports.
Oh, yeah, we're
it's
obsessed.
Literally the Buckeye State. That's
we're
what it's
obsessed.
called.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Good start, Mike. Good start to this podcast that we do together as friends once. In today's episode, we're talking about the news, some games, and our favorite Mario spinoffs. I'm saying we're just going to rank them. We should just rank the Mario spinoffs.
Okay, we can do a little ranking.
Yeah, we tend to have like the same taste when it comes to that stuff, and I think we might end up with the same number one, but we'll see what happens after that. First, though, before we do,
we have to clarify some of this. Oh God, we can see. Look, I want everyone with the video to look at the stupid thing Jeff has taped to the back of his chair.
It's not taped; it's strapped. It's a strap-on.
Weird green screen.
It's a strap-on. Look, there's like an elastic band.
Look, it works.
An elastic band.
Look, it's like wearing Crocs. I get it. It's comfortable.
It's like
it works, but I'm going to make fun of you for it.
I mean, yeah, I deserve it. I get it. But I'm very proud of it, and I'm going to keep wearing it. I'm going to keep it on the back of my chair from now on. It's not going anywhere. It also keeps like all the weird stuff back there. You can't really see it anymore. They actually sell them as internet privacy screens. But they come in green. They come in green.
Just happen to be green.
Yeah, I think they realize they can make some money doing that. And I was a sucker, and I bought it. Before we go on, before we do anything else, I'd want to thank everyone for joining us. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email the podcast at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can subscribe to the audio version of this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, just about anywhere else. Finally, if you like us, even if you don't, give us a rating on Apple Podcast, 5 stars. It helps people find the show, helps get us out there. So yeah, Mike, why don't you go ahead and start this week? What have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Well, Mario and Rabbids has been the big one.
For sure.
Yeah, how do you say that? Mario and Rabbids? Mario plus Rabbids?
I would just say Mario plus Rabbids.
Mario plus Rabbids.
You could say either one. Everyone's gonna know what you mean.
Right, exactly. But so yeah, that was a big one. I reviewed it. The review went up this morning. Gave it an 85 out of 100. You've been playing it as well, so we could probably talk about it a good amount here. We did a video for the site. What was that? Friday or something like that, where when you're kind of just playing through it, we talked about it a bit.
I'm Mike Minotti.
I'm Mike Minotti. I wonder why. I knew you were busying yourself with something over. You're like in my room now. It's okay.
I like it. Yeah, I'm sitting right next to you in your room. We're just staring at the same computer.
Anyways, back to our jobs.
I don't know, man. This feels like a fun job to me. Yeah, you're right. We did that video on Friday. I played it. You kind of talked me through it, and since then I've played it a bunch more. I got through the first world, started the second world. And I started seeing what you meant about how it opens up and you're trying to figure out which weapons to spend money on. And sometimes you just want to wait for it to do more damage. And sometimes you want to wait for it to really, like, the effects can have a big effect if you wait for the right one. But yeah, it's been really kind of great digging into it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like the thing I kind of go back to is there's a fear of it being XCOM for babies, and it's definitely not that.
No.
They simplify it in smart ways, kind of like how you would expect the Mario Tactics game to. Notably in that you only have 3 characters you have to manage, so it's a bit easier to survey and plan and all that stuff. And the other big one is that, like in XCOM, your percentage to hit somebody. This is like a lot of games, even Fire Emblem, right? Your percentage of like how much you're gonna hit has all these different factors. And here, there's really just 3 factors. It's just like sight line and what kind of cover they're behind, either like medium or high. So it's either 0% chance to hit them, a 50% chance to hit them, or 100% chance to hit them. Yeah, so you know kind of what you're getting into.
And another way it's actually simplified is you don't have like movement cost. It's not like, oh, your guy can move 5 tiles. It gives you a radius.
It's just a range.
Yes, and you can pretty much move anywhere within that range. And sometimes that even means like there's a barrier between you and there, like you and here, and you can basically run around that barrier, and it's not like you're using up your extra costs to run around. It took me a second to like realize the enemies had that as well, and that if I go on the other side of this barrier, they're still going to be able to get to me, even if their normal movement is like three tiles. It didn't matter. It was 3 tiles in any direction. Obstacles be damned. And that even like includes like jumping on enemies. Like you can melee attack them by sliding into them. And then you could still do your movement after that. You can go all the way across the other side of your movement area, your movement radius, go through a pipe, run out there and continue your movement in a really kind of insane way. Like I did a couple of moves where I would go through a pipe, like bounce off one of my characters, jump on another character, one of the enemies, and then bounce off behind them and shoot them and kill them. And it was like I moved all the way across the map, and it was kind of intense. So like it's both more simple because it's more simple that you don't have movement costs, but the things I was doing, the freedom it gave me, was much more complex than something you would do in XCOM.
That's kind of how the game sort of does set itself apart from XCOM, is all these movement options. It's like your movement turn, there's so much you can do with going through these pipes, going in them, going out them, hitting an enemy on your way, jumping on one of your friendly people to like extend your movement even further. That's really where like the strategy kind of becomes really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask, what do you think about the characters and the story beyond the core mechanics? How are you feeling about that after playing the game?
The story is sort of it's serviceable. It's nothing like. So the game keeps making me think of Super Mario RPG, Let's Say 7 Stars, right? Because and I was a kid when that came out, and I had played RPGs, but I was never quite good enough for them. It was always a little intimidating. But the Mario RPG, that was like the one like I can get into this. It was the first RPG I beat. And it never felt like Final Fantasy for kids. It was simpler, but it had some of its own stuff going on. It was really cool. I guess the one thing there, though, is that like that game kind of had a bit more of a memorable story. And I think this is something where the Rabbids kind of hurt things. Like Mario RPG had like Dino and Mallow or Gino, I don't know, some of these memorable characters. Whereas, here you have Rabbid Peach, Rabbid Luigi, and I don't know if I'm going to be buying the Rabbid Mario action figure anytime soon. The Rabbids, they don't hurt it. They're fine. They're amusing sometimes. And they do tone them down a bit. They're not as they're not screaming constantly like they are sometimes in some of their old games. But if you had made this game and just called it like Mario Tactics or something and replaced the Rabbids and the Rabbid enemies with just more Mario characters or original characters, it certainly wouldn't have hurt for it, and it might have just been better.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I get why Ubisoft went with a recognizable brand, but I almost kind of wish that, it was Rayman. Like, do that instead.
Right.
That would almost be better, but I don't hate anything that happened in this game. I'm never like, man, the Rabbids are so annoying. They made me chuckle.
That's what I was worried. Like, they're not a negative presence necessarily. Right. They're just not necessarily a positive one.
Right. In the way that you're right, the way you described Super Mario RPG with Gino, I pronounce it again.
I'm still like, oh man, I wish they would put Gino in more games.
I know, same here. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I carry a torch for those characters. So I definitely won't be doing that for. Maybe Peach, Rabbid Peach. I thought she has a lot going on. She's pretty interesting.
She's kind of like one note for selfie jokes.
I'm pretty early in the game, so I'm imagining I'll probably feel the same way after I finish it. But for now, I'm like, okay, I could kind of see maybe thinking this character's cool.
To be fair, tactics games in general are kind of later in stories than a more traditional RPG. So, like I love the Fire Emblem games. They have decent stories, but they're never as good as like a Final Fantasy or something. Mm-hmm. Even the XCOM games, the stories of them aren't as important as the gameplay itself, right?
That's right. Yep, totally.
And the RPGs are often kind of the opposite. Like people like Final Fantasy VII because of its story and its setting, its characters, not necessarily because of the turn-based combat, which was basically the same at that point since that series had for 10 years.
Yeah, I do think that this is another big win for the Switch, though. It's another thing where it's like, if this is the reason you jump in to get a Switch, you're not going to be disappointed. If it's not, if you're still waiting for Super Mario Odyssey, this is a game that you could pick up alongside it, along with several others at this point where you're just going to be like, okay, this game has a great library to kick me off with. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, just since that system launched in March, you had Zelda's launch title, which was, one of the best launch titles ever. Yeah. You very quickly had Mario Kart, which, sure, was an upgraded port, but, man, that worked well. You had ARMS, Splatoon 2, and now this. And then even some other things like, Sonic Mania is maybe multi-platform, but it's best on the Switch for sure. You even have some of these neat things like Puyo Puyo Tetris. I played the crap out of that. It's just been a really strong first 6 months or so for this system.
Yep, I agree. And it's just like...
And Mario's still coming. Like, Mario Odyssey's still coming. And you also, I mean, even outside of that, you also have Fire Emblem Warriors and Pokken tournaments. Like, they still have 3 pretty big games, 1 huge game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so it's just, a really strong first year for the Switch. The strongest first year in a long time, maybe ever. That might be another conversation.
Yeah, I have to kind of like go back and look at like what was the first year of the Super Nintendo, like, for instance. Because that's the only one that I think could maybe compete, because the Genesis, like, Sonic wasn't until like 2 years in for that system. People like that system kind of floundered until then. So Genesis, no, and everything out there that I have a pretty clear memory of, like, their first years, and I can't think of anything quite this. And
Nintendo's definitely benefiting from saying, we're going to pull the plug on Wii U. We can move a lot of development from that system to the Switch. Clearly, that's part of what happened here. But I mean, that's happened in the past as well.
Was this Rabbids game a Wii U game at some point?
I feel like it was almost a Wii game at some point. I feel like that was how far back that rumor goes. But it was definitely a Wii U game before. Because I mean, it would work well on the Wii U.
I bet Ubisoft's happy because now people will actually play this thing.
Right. Yeah. exactly. And they could, like, you can imagine them having like the tactical view. Like, it has 2 views: there's the tactical view and the combat view. And you can imagine them having the tactical view down on the gamepad or whatever.
Yeah, and it turns out it's all completely unnecessary.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what it is?
Great without it.
You know what's like actually kind of necessary is being able to take the games wherever you want.
This is such a great showcase for that. Like, again, like, I'm so hooked on that now. And, like, sometimes, like, sometimes the frame rate will drop and there'll be performance issues. Whatever. It's worth it just to have that portability.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. You want to touch on the Lich King and Hearthstone? Why don't you go ahead and give me the laydown on that?
Sure. So, like, Hearthstone expansions used to be adventures and just, like, general expansions. And, like, the expansions had a bunch of cards and no single-player content. The adventures had a lot less cards, but they had these, like, solo encounters with these kind of funny character interactions.
Did this most recent one replace, like, what would have been, like, the time for our new adventure?
No, so they're done with adventures.
Right, yeah. So is this when they would have done it before, and now they're doing this instead?
So what they did is they just basically made adventure-style content as part of the last expansion. Okay, and that's how it's going to be going forward. And the cool thing was, so it was like that. It's fewer bosses, but the last one was the Lich King Arthas for this expansion, and the whole gimmick was each class. So each of the 9 classes had a different, like, condition against them. If you beat it with all 9 classes, you've got the alternate paladin hero portrait of, like, a pre-corrupted Arthas. So it's just really neat going through this because it's this really hard boss fight, and, like, for mage, he just sets your health at 1 right away. For Paladin, anytime he kills one of your minions or one of your minions dies, he gets it on his board. So it's just like all these really difficult but, like, different things for each class. So I was just having a lot of fun throughout the week just kind of going through these. And, like, the community was, like, all kind of, like, working together, seeing what would work out. It was just a really cool way, and I'm glad that, like, the solo content lives on past the whole adventure idea.
And do you get rewards for the solo content?
Yeah, well, so for the other ones, you just got a pack of cards for playing each win. But yeah, this one was the that Arthas hero portrait I was talking about.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so it's a pretty nice reward, really. Like, those are usually something you have to pay for, or, like, you have to be an Amazon Prime member to get those.
Yeah, like $10 or something for those. I feel like the first one was pretty expensive.
Something like that. I never even got it, but so yeah, it was super fun.
Cool. Yeah, I Destiny 2 on PC. You've played it now, right?
Yeah, I just played the first half of that solo mission. It is comically better on PC. I think that's how I would put it.
Yes, almost. It's absurd. It's at a point where I feel like anyone on the fence at all, if you were like, oh, should I just wait for the PC version or get it on PS4 where, like, all my friends are playing, even though maybe 1 or 2 friends might play on PC. I would say if you're in that situation, just wait for the PC and spend, like, the next month convincing all your friends to get it on PC as well.
I don't know if it's because I've been spending so much time with PC shooters, and, like, it used to be like I wasn't a snob about it, right? I was like,
same here.
Whatever.
Oh yeah,
play it. I could play it on a controller, and, like, now I've been playing so much I've been playing Overwatch almost every day for a year now. It's just like, I really don't want to aim with, like, joysticks in a multiplayer style game anymore.
I mean,
even, like, the single player stuff.
I mean, you're right that's an issue for sure, but then it's just like 60 frames per second versus
the
30.
60 frames is such a big difference.
It's insane.
I can't believe even the Xbox One X isn't. I mean, I guess there's that parity reason they brought up. But man, that would have been something to sell that system on.
Yeah, for real. If it was 60 frames on Xbox One X, I could see, okay, yeah, play it on console, but make sure you're playing on Xbox One X. But
no, it looks so much better. Like, there's nothing wowing me about playing Destiny 2 on the Xbox One.
Right.
But like on the PC, I'm like, oh, this actually looks really good. This is cool.
It feels so smooth. Like, you really all those.
Like, I have a pretty good PC. Like, I have like one of those like VR like minimum spec PCs, basically.
Right.
Even
yeah, 970-ish, yeah.
Right. It's just great. I'm like, oh yes, there we go. This is good. I'm like aiming at people's heads and like consistently hitting them. Like, you don't have to do a lot of that. Like I call it the Xbox, like the dual analog stick juke aiming, where you're kind of aiming by strafing.
Yeah.
More so than you are like moving the right stick.
Yeah, you forget how much you start doing that when you like go from PC back to the console, and you're like, oh yeah, I have to do that thing, that weird maneuver.
Like getting headshots in console a lot of times is kind of luck.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Sometimes.
And now here I'm just like headshot. If I'm not getting a headshot, I'm like, oh man, I got to do something. Something's wrong. I got to fix this. People always talk about how good the Destiny shooting feels, and I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's good. All right, sure. And then you get played on PC, and you're like, oh, it's good. I get it now. But I had to actually play it the way it's meant to be played, clearly. I mean, this is the definitive version of the game.
It's so weird that this is coming out a little bit later. Like, because this is the way to play it, I think.
I mean, I'm sure they needed maybe a little bit more time.
They probably needed that Sony money is what I think they needed.
I think the Sony money definitely helps there. And I think they don't mind the idea of a bunch of people getting on console and then buying to get on PC, which seems to always happen with a lot of these kinds of games.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
for sure.
I'm happily waiting.
Yep. Sam. If I'm getting it at all, it's on PC for sure.
That's the thing. I wasn't even I was almost down on the whole idea of Destiny 2 after playing the console beta. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to get bored of this. Like, the initial wow factor of seeing it on PC and 60 frames per second will fade. But, like, I'm, like, a little hyped right now for it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is cool. This will be fun.
Yeah, I could at least see myself just, like, getting the base game, playing through that content, and calling it, like, okay, that was great. I'm not going to come back over and over. Maybe once or twice on all these strikes. I could see the benefit of learning these missions and coming back and really just doing it through muscle memory. But, yeah. For
raids, which were so, like, mechanically dependent, like, you know, there's such a tight window to get your damage in on raids. Like, I did the first one on the original Destiny. Being able to actually consistently do headshots is going to be, like, such a big difference. That'd be so frustrating to go back to. And then, especially since they want to make PvP such a focus this time around, like, that is so rough with, I'm playing Halo on the Xbox original, right? No, I want mouse.
Yep. And you touched on it a little bit, but I'll just say, yeah, they've clearly optimized the hell out of this. They're working with NVIDIA. I think when you boot up, even just the beta, it automatically detects your settings or your hardware and sets it perfectly. It went 4K, and then it did a bunch of custom settings, and I thought it looked great, and it was running smooth at 60 frames per second at 4K. I was just like, okay, this is phenomenal. I'll tell you what,
also kind of nice to have it in that the BattleNet opener thing.
You're not wrong. It is totally, because you're right. It's one of those things I think a lot of people just have running all the time. I almost always have it running as well, and just popping it up and getting it going, and not necessarily having to go through Steam. And it's like one of the other things that you're like, okay, this is okay to not be in Steam if it's in this one other thing, and it's there. It's right there at the bottom, and I can find it really easy.
If Activision want to put a few more games, like, I wouldn't mind if Call of Duty was in there, honestly. Like, why not?
For sure. I mean, just like a Call of Duty.
What else would it even be?
Yeah, not every Call of Duty, but just like a Call of Duty.
Yeah, whatever the new one was. Yeah,
right.
It literally it should just say Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yep. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'll probably end up writing something about how it's there's only one real way to play it, and I'll post that this week. But kind of said everything here. Only other thing, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's this little video game. I don't know if you know, but
I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, there's you have 100 friends, but there's enough chicken for just one of them, and you got to do something about it.
So you got to kill everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. It's I've been playing a lot more of that, of course. And on Friday, I did another one of those big like hoedowns with the games industry and people watching on the GamesBeat Twitch. And it was really cool because we were able to do a 50 versus 50 match where we had 10 teams of 5 versus another 10 teams of 5 because the game doesn't let you go more than 8-person squads. So we just basically got everyone together and said, hey, if you're watching, if you're in the Discord, go and get a jacket. If you own a jacket, because sometimes a lot of people don't own jackets, but enough did, go get your jacket, come into the lobby, and if you're in one of the top 10 teams, you're going to be the jackets, and you keep it. And then if you're one of the bottom, 50, you just drop your jacket on the floor. Someone else will come pick it up, and we're going to go jackets versus skins. And it worked out super well. It was really crazy to see like these huge waves, like this huge force move across the map. And like, I really like, there was one strategy, like we couldn't hear anybody. It was me and Aaron Scratty Bones commentating, and we couldn't hear what they were saying to one another. So we were watching like Will Smith, who used to be with Tested. He's now Fusho VR. And one of his buddies, they were in a car and they were driving ahead. I'm like, oh, they're just going to be scouts. They're looking to see where the other team is. And they were doing that. But the real thing was they were going from car to car to car that their team wasn't going to take and blowing out the tires so that the cars were useless. And I saw them do it. I'm like, oh, my God, that's what they're doing. That's a really smart strategy. It might not matter, but we'll see. And as the circle sort of started funneling the two teams at one another, they met over near one of the bridges. The bridge on the west side basically is kind of where they met on the main island, not the military island. And the circle just sort of formed right around the jacket team, and the skins team that was coming from the north needed to charge, and they had no vehicles. Every vehicle they went into, tires were blown out. Like, they could use motorcycles because motorcycles, you can't blow out those tires, but it wasn't enough. And so they just kind of had to like skirt around in the water and try to get up, and like it was basically the deciding factor. So it was really cool to see that work. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is now MAG, that old PlayStation 3 game.
I never played
massive
MAG.
action game.
I mean, did anyone play MAG?
No.
They made a big deal about that. It was. I never played SOCOM either, though, and that was actually popular.
Yeah, totally.
It was the same people, right?
Yeah, I think it was similar concept. It wasn't as big. I think MAG was like 124 people, and like there was like a general and a person.
That's when we realized maybe the numbers aren't the important thing.
Yeah, definitely not. But it was cool. I think that's kind of how it actually ended up working. Very similar to MAG, where there was like a Discord full of people like that were in charge of like, because like there's in-game chat and then there's Discord chat, and like you could have people in the Discord chat getting all these orders, and then they would go into the game chat and funnel them into there. In a way so that like they could like all coordinate but not be constantly talking at one another. It was amazing to witness, especially from the observer point of view.
Well, Jeff, I'm glad you had fun with all of your PUBG friends.
Yeah, you should come back on this
I
Friday.
should. I was going to, but I kind of just got absorbed into Overwatch.
That's fine too.
I was playing it with my brothers, and we were getting loot boxes.
That's fine. Like, whenever PUBG servers go down, we should play Overwatch. That's what we do.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, I think that's going to do it for kind of what we've been up to in the last week. We're going to jump into the news now, and then we'll take a break and come back with some Mario spinoffs. So, yeah, Mike.
Yo.
What do you know about Half-Life 3?
That makes me mad.
Did you follow the story at all?
Yeah.
I'll read the headline.
I read the whole plot summary the guy posted and everything.
Okay, I'm gonna let you kind of give me the big stuff here. But former Half-Life writer Marc Laidlaw releases possible Half-Life 3 plot summary on his website. So I understand he kind of released it under a different name, but clearly it's Half-Life 3.
Yeah, it's like I forget. It's like Gorman Freevish or something, and like the gender's all reversed and stuff like that. But it's very obvious what he's talking about.
Like you could do a find and replace in Word.
Yes,
and like
people have.
Yeah,
people just put it up if you're confused with just the actual names now. So Marc Laidlaw is the guy who wrote like the Half-Life series since Half-Life 1, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And then he left like a couple of years ago. And that was kind of like, or a year or so ago. And that was kind of when it was like, oh God, like Half-Life 3 or Episode 3 is maybe just never happening. It should be noted, this is really more of a Half-Life Episode 3 plot summary. This is basically right after, because, Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ends on the big cliffhanger. So it's like, and they're like, yeah, Episode 3 is going to be next. And, it makes sense. Like, okay, yeah, just get that team and have them make the next game. And then, for reasons we still don't really understand, that just didn't happen. And they also just never started development on anything else, or they maybe did. Like, Valve has all these weird, like, employee rules that, like, seem good, but it leads to things like their marquee franchise going untouched for a decade.
I mean, just to like let people like basically at Valve, they don't have bosses, they don't have mandates about what people should be doing with their time. Essentially, they try to hire good people, like really talented people, and then they say, do what you think is best with your time while you're here. And people go and do stuff like make the the marketplace where you can trade items, and they make trading cards, and they make I guess, Dota 2 VR.
I find it almost hard to believe that like we're talking about like with Sonic, even like so many of those people are people who love Sonic. Is there nobody at there aren't enough people at Valve who love Half-Life to get this going? There probably is still some sort of Half-Life VR project or something. I don't know. But anyways, the point is that this guy, I don't think, a lot of people don't think Marc Laidlaw would have posted this plot summary of episode 3 unless he kind of thought that there was no chance it was getting made.
Right.
So at the very least, this version of it, which at one point was going to be what episode 3 was going to be, this version is not coming. So he posted a plot summary to kind of give us a little bit of closure on that.
And I think it's pretty clear to say that episode 3 definitely dead. I don't think someone else is going to pick it up.
I mean, it's been 2007 was episode 2.
Right, exactly. So first of all, episodic model, very kind of hilarious example of that. But beyond that, yeah, they're not. If they do another Half-Life, there's no way it's episode 3. It would be something else, Half-Life 3 or some other offshoot.
Yeah, but it's weird because you then have to like get around the fact that you have this cliffhanger that doesn't really feel like a cliffhanger for the next game. It feels like a cliffhanger for that game,
Mm-hmm.
It's just so it just baffled me that when it was hot, when people were clamoring, like people are still clamoring for it, but people were clamoring for it. They sold us the orange box. It made a lot of money, so it's not like there was any issue there. You had a team because you just made the other thing. I understand that you were also working on some other things, but at some point you had to have gotten episode 3 out there. It really does upset me. I know some people, they'll offer these excuses like, well, that's not where the money is, or, well, they're just going to disappoint
it's not where the money
anyways.
is, and it's also upsetting. Like, I mean, we just had this conversation about Microsoft. Like, Microsoft's like, maybe there's not a lot of money for us to like invest in marquee single-player games. But I mean, clearly there is something to that. Valve just happens to be like in a situation where they don't have to because they are making enough money somewhere else. But there might also still be value in those marquee games. I mean, I don't know. I think there would be, but I don't know. It is still upsetting.
So many things just came from Half-Life 2. I mean, or even just from Half-Life 1 is why you have things like their version of Team Fortress. It's why you have things like their modding scenes and Counter-Strike, the Source engine. Like, things come from making these marquee titles still. And I guess maybe they think Dota 2 is their marquee title right now.
I mean, I think they think like they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it maybe on the more distribution and business side. They think that they're democratizing game development, and they're making it so anyone can put a game out, and they are making it so anyone can understand like how discounts work and how to price your game and all this other stuff. And I think they think that's what their benefit is now, like what they are doing to improve the industry. And it's true, but it's not. I think at
some point you owe something to Half-Life fans, right? The people who help make your company successful.
I mean, it's a tough one, but I agree. I think on a base level, I think there's an argument to be made that they don't owe anyone anything. They already made the games, and we bought those games.
Oh,
but,
maybe not. Maybe "oh" isn't the word, but
no.
Come on.
But no, you're right. There's something there. There is something to be said of owning your lineage and your heritage and your history and the reason you have a huge fan base in the first place, and saying like, okay, what are we going to do about that? Like, what are we going to do to maintain, sort of to keep honest in terms of our relationship with the people that have been following us for 20 years now? And yeah, at this point, I think like it's starting to feel almost dishonest, like they are still just stringing people along, and they won't just say like, yo, Half-Life 3 is not in the works.
Say something, and I don't know why they can't. I think it's because something always is in the very early stages of something or another, so it's awkward for them. But I mean, they can't like all the negativity around it, right? It has to bother them a little.
And I mean, I don't know. I don't know who said it, but it was like, oh, we make money to make movies, not movies to make money. Someone said that, and it's like you kind of get the sense from like Blizzard that Blizzard makes money to make games. They really enjoy the craft of making wonderful games that people really want to jump into. You get that sense from Nintendo. Nintendo makes money to make more games. They release some really strange games that like don't seem like they're going to do well, and then sometimes they make money, sometimes they don't. They just there's an announcement that they like.
It's not like when Wii Sports was a big hit, they like canceled all production of Mario games.
Right? Yeah, they use that money to fund different and strange ideas. They're not going to make any more Rhythm Heaven games, I guess, according to some reports. And Mother 3 is probably not going to come out ever. Maybe is what that same report said.
Coming out at some point. I don't care what any report says.
Yeah, no, I hope so. And maybe it'll just take some time or a new CEO, which is probably going to happen in the next couple of years, just because this one definitely seems more interim. But still, the point is that they are all the things they do sort of serve back to this act of creation. And Valve, while I do appreciate what they do in terms of creating a platform for other developers, and I think that's super important, and the way that they're treating it, I think is actually pretty correct, even if like some people don't like the way it's sort of opened up the floodgates on Valve and on Steam. I still think that they are missing what really made them crucial in the first place, and it was just their artistic endeavors and not just their business endeavors.
Some of this is just personal because I was about as much of like something as close to a Valve fanboy as you can be, right? Like I was playing a lot of Half-Life, a ton of Team Fortress Classic, then Counter-Strike, Half-Life 2, one of my favorite games. Team Fortress, all that stuff. I thought all of it was just fantastic, and they were just such a prestige developer to me. And it was the company everyone loved to love, right? Like, oh, Gaben, haha, we love Valve. Valve can't do any wrong, and it's just weird that it's just completely flipped on itself. And I never would have thought the reason would be is like they just won't make the next Half-Life. It's nothing happening, and now like it's so bad that like the main Half-Life writer is like apparently as frustrated as everyone else if he's putting it on his site, right? This isn't coming from some sort of positive place from this guy, and I'm sure Valve's not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're like mad about it. They might just be indifferent, but they're not happy about it. Yeah, that's for sure. Right. It's not a positive place. You're right. I don't know. Yeah, this is something we're gonna have. I think try to maybe kind of keep a closer eye on as if anything else like shakes loose from this, maybe some more stuff. I mean, there was a bunch of writers that just left Valve in the last couple of months and year. We'll see.
It is the question now, like who would even make a new Half-Life at that company right now?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think that might be like you touched on their hiring practices. It might come down to the fact that they don't go out and say, hey, we're hiring you specifically as a director of a project to do this thing. They don't do that, so the thing doesn't ever get done.
Maybe they should.
Yeah, maybe. Like maybe there's something still to be done there. Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know. Yes.
Steam machines.
Gotta love those Steam. I mean, I love my Steam machine, Mike. I don't know about you.
I don't have a goddamn Steam machine.
I don't think anyone has a goddamn Steam machine. Relic Entertainment is developing Age of Empires 4. Mike, were you ever an Age of Empires guy?
A little. I played Age of Empires like 1 and 2 a bit. I think I've told you before that real-time strategy has kind of been my kryptonite.
I was gonna say we actually touched on this last week. So, but I mean, I guess they definitely confirmed that Relic is the one working on it. I don't know. This is still, I think, pretty interesting. I think Age of Empires, that remake master, is like coming out very soon. I think I'm definitely gonna give it a try now.
Did you ever play? There was some Star Wars RTS game that was just a Star Wars skin on Age of Empires 2. No, that was fun.
Yeah,
that was good.
I always liked those ideas, though. Wait, was it like an official game, or was it?
It was official. It was an official thing. They just got the engine.
I probably have it on Steam.
Instead of settlers, you just had like R2 units collecting resources, and it was fantastic.
I always I have like multiple Star Wars real-time strategy games on my computer. I can't remember the name for it.
Yeah, because there's so many Star Wars strategy games, they all have generic names like Galactic Battlegrounds or something. Or
Empire at War. Is that the one?
No, I think Galactic. Shoot, I'm gonna look it up. I can't remember.
All right, well that's fine. Well, I definitely want to see if I can play it though, because that does sound interesting. Dota 2 is getting review bombed because people think it killed Half-Life 3. That's probably what we should have gone to next, but
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I see some people are like, "Oh, this is a shame," but I almost understand the misguided anger at this point. I'm also upset.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Yeah, misguided.
Galactic Battlegrounds is the one. That's
Galactic
just
okay.
basically
All right. I don't
so,
think I actually have
excuse
one.
me.
Oh, well.
But,
yeah.
I mean, some people are like, yeah, this isn't really Dota 2's fault. Maybe fault isn't the word, but I think there's a correlation. I can understand being frustrated. If you're a Half-Life fan who doesn't care about MOBAs, I can understand why Dota 2 frustrates you. It frustrates me a little bit. I kind of wish I could wave a magic wand and say, Dota 2 be gone.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and I know for a lot of people that game's very
well.
important.
Yeah,
a lot of people that game's very important and it's very fun. It means more to them than Half-Life ever did. But just selfishly and personally, I would switch that and everything it's ever stood for just episode 3 in a heartbeat.
And of course, it's not a either or. Like it's not like
it's not a zero-sum thing. Sure,
not a zero-sum game. Yeah, it's we can have both, but yes, I think there is a sentiment that Valve just made enough money from Dota 2 that they don't ever have to make another game again, or they're making enough money from Steam. And I think the real issue here is that when people get those frustrations that you just described, they don't know where to direct it. Like Valve doesn't have a great public presence where like there's like a person you can go to on Twitter and yell at. I mean, you could email Gabe. Gabe's email is like really public and stuff, but like he responds like to 1 in 1,000 or something like that. And it's never one like, hey, where's Half-Life 3 or like, why aren't you guys like putting someone in charge of this to get it done? Like, he's never going to touch on those. So people are just frustrated, and user reviews on Steam are a way to like maybe get noticed. I mean, this got noticed, so. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not going to hurt Dota 2.
Yes, no way. I mean, PUBG's like getting review bombed on Steam as well because people are mad about one thing or another, usually microtransactions, and it's doing just fine. Like, these things almost never have any impact anymore.
Not for these big tier games, anyways.
That's true. Brink is now free to play on Steam. I downloaded it and I installed it and I haven't touched it. So that's the story of Brink.
Brink, man, the game that wasn't.
I'll tell you the one thing. I don't remember much about Brink. I remember it being at a PAX I went to, and I remember that the big thing, at least for me when I heard about it, was it had in the options a bunch of control schemes that like correlated to other games. So you could just like, no matter what first-person shooter you were coming from, you could just hop into this one and get started. And like they had like all the control schemes had like funny but clear names. Like I think Call of Duty was like Fish because it was like COD. So it's like you knew like we're talking about Call of Duty. So you just go
I might
to Fish.
not have made that connection actually.
Yeah,
it was you said, I'm like, why is it called Fish?
I mean, it was probably it was probably more clever than that, but like yeah, it was something along those lines. So,
sure,
yeah.
like that. I'm sure they had that in, like Halo.
Yes, absolutely, and yeah, all the other ones. But that's all I remember. And so I want to try it, and now I'm going to be playing it on PC, so I don't care what other games it controls like.
I'll tell you what, I will not be trying it.
Yeah, I just want to see. I want to see, Mike. I'm curious.
That's fine.
Final Fantasy 15 will have Steam Workshop support, and it will run on older PCs. It's also going to be 170 gigabytes or something like that, which is just nuts.
I think I heard someone say maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is.
I mean, I think it's with all the DLC, and it includes all the DLC. So you could like choose not to install that until you're ready or whatever. So but
we're gonna have a lot of fun mods. We're gonna have Shrek in there and all that good stuff.
I mean, Shrek is all you need. Well, Shrek and Thomas the Tank Engine. Like you get those in there and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I think this is cool. I mean, this seems like a pretty interesting thing for Square Enix to do, a Japanese company to do to really support mods. But they seem pretty gung-ho about it, so I'm excited. I want to see how that turns out. I mean, it makes it kind of the thing where I'm like, well, I should definitely have it, just in case maybe some weird total conversion Star Wars mod will come out, and I want to try that as well. So
right. Well, like that combat system would be so cool with like some other characters. So
right, yeah.
In fact, I kind of hope that's what they're just doing with that Avengers game is just using this combat engine. So and kind of maybe get a taste of that. We can just throw in Captain America and Iron Man into a mod.
And for those players that are mad at Dota 2, maybe it's finally dead because PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds surpassed it for the first time. I think this is the first time in 6 years that any game has had more concurrent players than Dota 2 on Steam.
So is it just Counter-Strike at number 1? That's the only one left?
No. Counter-Strike was fewer people than Dota 2. Dota 2 was the top by far. Dota 2's had like.
Oh, so it's it was at number 1. You're saying
number 1. Yeah.
I thought I read. Oh, well, there we go then.
I mean, it's not like it doesn't have like the highest concurrent like all time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just
but it was like Saturday night, Sunday morning. Dota 2 was like at 820,000, and then PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds was like 860,000, and then the servers went down, of course. Right. So yeah, no game's done that in 6 years. So clearly, and it feels like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds still has a ways to go. And it's also $30 compared to a free-to-play game. So clearly this game has struck a chord. It's really one of the biggest games in a long time. Okay, Mike, I think it's time for us to go to an ad break. We're going to go ahead and do that. When we come back, we're going to talk about some Mario spin-offs inspired by Mario plus Rabbids. Join us for that. We'll be back in about a minute.
See you later.
Whether developing, playing, or simply hosting games on a server, Intel makes it happen. And Intel wants to make sure the biggest innovations in gaming continue to happen on the PC by giving developers a hand with the Intel Game Dev program. All you have to do is sign up, and Intel will provide the resources necessary to help you continue to innovate and make gaming even more amazing. Head on over to the Game Dev program at software.intel.com/gamedev to get started. Again, that URL is software.intel.com/gamedev.
Okay, Mike, we are back. Let's go ahead, just jump right into this. So, Mario plus Rabbids, a very good take on the Mario universe, taking those characters, putting them in a different gameplay mechanic setting. What are some other good examples of that to you? And I think we should try to rank the top 5.
Okay. To be clear, by Mario spinoff, we're kind of mean like, it's basically like Mario games that aren't platformers. Like, we're not talking about like Donkey Kong Country or Yoshi's Island.
That's
stuff
right.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and you know, we're kind of talking about before, but the one I kind of think of first is Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo. And we've had a bunch of Mario RPG games since then. Some have been very good, like Mario and Luigi 1. I liked Paper Mario 1000 Year Door for the GameCube. But the first one still kind of holds the dearest place in my heart.
I agree. Actually, I would I put Super Mario RPG way up there. It's I think it's the game that sort of proved that these characters were iconic and had appeal no matter what you were doing with them. It was fun to spend time with them, and they really they shone bright when you put them up against other characters for them to play off against. Mallow was great. Gino, we mentioned him a couple times now.
Yeah, this was one of the first like Mario games that kind of drew out that universe a bit more, right? Like we actually kind of like got to go to like a Mushroom Kingdom. Like we had to go to like the castle in the town. We got to see like just I don't know, just like a little bit of how that place would work.
Yeah, and there was like secret entrances and
like
things you could do.
You know?
Made the world feel alive, and it made it feel like a real place, even though it had this very isometric sort of play doll style and visual effects. It still felt very living and breathing.
And it started that whole kind of like rhythmic like defense and like extra attack thing in the Mario RPGs that are standard in this series, and a lot of other games have used too now. Right,
and I think that's one of the things that helped me bridge the gap to get into any RPG. I mean, I haven't had a ton of success enjoying other RPGs since then, but here and there. But this is definitely, I think, but for me, it was like, okay, having this thing to do in the middle of the battle where I can like time stuff and feel like I'm participating. I really enjoyed that. And but it was like just the story. I don't know. It was very entertaining. I remember like finding it very memorable, like the wedding and getting Bowser on your side and stuff like that.
So many, it was like one of the first times where like there was the uneasy Bowser alliance.
Yeah, so good.
All these kind of memorable moments, going to Star Road and looking for Gino in the woods and fighting Smithy at the end.
And it was like very kind of episodic,
like that Power Ranger, like parody group of villains.
That's where I would always I'd rent the game, and that's where as far as I would get for a very long time until I finally got past it and powered through and realized, you have to beat them in a certain order. Okay, but that took me a while. I love that game, and I would have no problem just saying that's probably number one. And then
did you the rest. Like Paper Mario? The first one was a good game, but like I had a hard time enjoying it the first time because they first advertised that game, or like the working title was Mario RPG 2.
Yeah. And
I was kind of expecting something more like that, or it's like, oh, maybe Gino Mallow will be back, and when they weren't, I just had a hard time accepting it at first.
Same here. I mean, I respect it more now. At the time, I was just like, oh, this is not what I wanted, and I don't even have like a party. I just have like one character with me at a time, and it was just
right. But Paper Mario 2, like I was just way more on board with it, and I was like,
What, the 1,000-Year Door?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was overall that was just a better game as well. But definitely, at that point, I was like, okay, the stung, like I had soothed my sting from like not getting what I wanted, and I'm like, okay, I can have more of this now. I'm okay with that.
Jeff, what about Paper Mario Color Jam and Sticker Star? Yeah, Sticker Star.
Those
were games.
Those games go eat shit. I hate those games.
Those games came out. Yeah, they were games.
Color Splash exists. I never touched it. But
it certainly does.
Sticker Star, oh boy. I remember that game came out,
upsetting.
And I reviewed it, and I'm like, this is fucking bullshit, right? Like, this sucks real bad. And like, it came out, and there was a couple other reviews, but I think like Phil Kohler also reviewed it at the same time, and he kind of liked it. And I'm like, no, okay, maybe I'm just insane. Maybe I just don't like it. And then it was like a couple weeks later, and everyone's like, no, this game is straight.
History proves you right.
Straight trash. It's bad.
It was rough.
Yeah, I was very upset about that.
That whole sub-series seems a little done now.
Yeah, I do also like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga a ton.
Right, but that's another series that's kind of overstayed its welcome.
For sure.
The first one.
Maybe this has helped Super Mario RPG that there hasn't been another one. It's very pristine.
Maybe,
and well kept, for sure.
Yeah. So outside of the RPGs, then how about the sports titles? Is there one of those that sticks out to you as like your absolute favorite? Not counting Mario Kart.
Yeah, I would probably like. I mean, there's a bunch of great ones. Mario Tennis is good. I do like Strikers, things like that. But I think if we were to only pick like one sports game, I would probably go Mario Golf, the one for the Game Boy Advance.
Yes.
The RPG one.
Yes. Those. So it's so weird still how the Game Boy Advance versions of Mario Golf and Tennis are by far the best ones because they had these weird RPG like mechanics where you like you could just play it like all the other ones where it's like, oh, just play a match and you're Mario or Donkey Kong. But
these fun courses and stuff. But no, you could like pick a character.
These campaigns where you played just like as a human,
mm-hmm.
And you like would go to like some sort of like club, and like it was like an RPG, like it was like a top-down thing. It was like, oh, here's like the place, but if you want to be the real best, maybe someday you'll be as good as Mario. You gotta work your way up to all the different ranks and like the leagues, and you can do training to get better. It was just so cool, like to have this progression system, and like still like that good like. Mario Golf kind of like AA is the top spin or AA is like super top spin.
It was like a very good core gameplay, and then like just this excellent like RPG adventure wrapped around it. I couldn't get enough of that. I wish they would just go back to that.
Right, because like even the last Mario Golf for 3DS, it was like fun, but it was
good.
It feels like it's missing that whole component, which just made it so much more interesting. Like it's literally I just play golf on it, and I'm like, okay, this is fine, but. Like,
there's nothing wrong with it except for just what it's missing.
Right. Yeah. But Mario Tennis was the same thing too. But I guess I did like the golf a little bit better.
I think we can go probably get golf. Just put it on just above tennis. I would think. I mean, I could take both, but I don't know. Let's see. How about do you have any? Do you have one? I'm like I have maybe one or two more, but.
Well, let me see. I want to hear what you think. Throw something out at me.
I mean, maybe like Mario Picross. I mean, I like the Picross series in general, but I'd probably go like.
You know what I would do over that is Mario Paint. Forget about Picross.
All right, that's fair. Mario Paint is that's definitely deserves to be on there. I never owned it, but I put so much time into it at my friend's house, like during sleepovers. I would play that game all night long. I really like the Music Maker, but just all the hidden stuff. It was Nintendo being Nintendo, like even like way back then. It was so good.
Right. It's just like all the weird things in that game. Like you can make little animations,
right?
And you could just fill in colors. There's like the weird mouse mini games with the fly, and there's the Music Maker was like one of the best things.
Oh yeah, I mean people still use that Music Maker to make music. Like it's migrated online, and there's these websites where you could just go there and use all the same exact sound effects and tools. Just do it on a website, so you don't have to go find your Super Nintendo mouse. But people loved it so much that they're still doing that today. But yeah, like you said, like the hidden fly mini games. It was just such a Nintendo product where they paid so much attention to detail and made sure that you were very engaged with it, and that you like when you notice something, you're like, hey, what's this weird thing? No, there's something there. It's not just like some weird mistake or just random bit of visual data. It was always there's always going to be something extra. I don't know. I love that.
So, did Did the Mario versus Donkey Kong games ever do anything for you?
No, because I fondly remember Donkey Kong 94, and that's almost a Mario game because I mean you're playing as Mario, but I mean I don't know if we want to open up that door because it feels like it could be.
Maybe because that is really good. But...
It's really good, and I mean you play as Mario. Donkey Kong's just the bad guy, and that's the game. Like so, whenever I think of Mario versus Donkey Kong, and I get those games, I'm like it's no Donkey Kong 94. Which I mean I guess people don't know that's the Game Boy game where the first couple of levels are just standard arcade Donkey Kong, but then once you get past those like 3 or 4 stages, it opens up. It becomes this huge puzzle platforming game that is incredible, and Mario could do like side jumps where he runs and like flips backwards and all kinds of stuff, and it was just the best. I really, man, I could go play a game right now and play the whole thing in one sitting.
You know what no one remembers? Remember the Mario Pinball game for the Game Boy Advance? Mario Pinball Land?
Man.
There's one of no one really remembers. Like it gets completely overshadowed by like Metroid Prime Pinball and Kirby Pinball.
Yeah.
It was fine. To be fair, it wasn't as good as those. Which is
right.
part of the issue there. But yeah, they did make one of those. I guess one of the other big like sub franchises is the Mario Party games, which another thing that they just really drilled into the ground. Like, the first one was really cool. But like they were, and then that series has also gotten worse. Like the last one, like you don't even all move around a game board. Like you're all like you're all like the same board piece, or like on a car together. I'm like, what is even going on here anymore?
Yeah, I think they just like give that to the B team or the C team or whatever, and like just pump out the same shit, but change up the rules or whatever. And no one gets the memo that like the first one's just like what it should be a lot of. I don't know. I would say that I would feel really good if it was like Super Mario RPG at number 1, and then we got Mario Golf, and I would probably still pop Superstar Saga on there, and what were the other? And then
I think
Mario
we can
Paint.
put tennis on there too. Let's put tennis at number 4
probably
then.
Tennis. Yeah.
And then at number 5 we can do
Superstar Saga.
No, I thought we had Saga or whatever. Yeah, Saga's on there somewhere. We'll say okay. 1 Mario RPG, 2 Golf, 3 Superstar Saga, 4 Tennis, and then 5 is either Mario Paints or are we counting Donkey Kong? That's kind of the question.
Yeah. I really like Donkey Kong 94. Yeah, me too. I really
Let's get it in there.
It's not the same thing as Donkey Kong Country. It's just not like it's Donkey Kong Country.
No, it's
is
so
this whole
different.
new thing.
It is much more of a Mario game.
Yeah, and it has the same sort of feel. Like he's got moves he has from Super Mario 64 and stuff. So yeah, okay, that's a really good list. I like that. So you said 1 RPG, 2 was Golf, 3 Superstar Saga, 4 is Tennis, and 5 is Donkey Kong 94.
Let's switch Tennis and Donkey Kong. Let's get Donkey Kong a little higher.
I feel better at that already. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a good list right there. That's hot stuff.
There we go. See,
I would go play every single one of those games right now and be totally happy with them. I think that's.
I really want to play Donkey Kong now. I haven't played that. Remember, like the big thing with that game was like it was like kind of the Super Game Boy launch game.
Yeah, exactly. And so it had like a bunch of like good color schemes and stuff. Yeah, I do remember that. And it had like the sidebars where like they actually like looked cool instead of just random shitty 4-color scheme or whatever. Yeah, that's a good game. I have played that recently, and I want to go back again.
Apparently, it's on the 3DS Virtual Console.
Yeah, that's where I played it. I did play it.
Good to know then.
Excellent, cool. We'll get that posted up on the site. We just did a feature, Mike. That's
easy writing here.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about.
Well, here's one more question, I guess. Then is would you put Mario Rabbids on that list? Would you? Would you? I might put it at 5. I might put it above Tennis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think I would. I mean, I love tennis. I do. But it's for me. It's a take it or leave it with between that and golf. And it's like if I have golf, I don't necessarily need tennis. I'm glad that it existed. I'm glad that both came out and they had these awesome RPG things. But Mario plus Rabbids is different enough. It's cool enough, and it's really good. I would definitely pop it on there. We did touch on it. How'd you feel about the music in Mario plus Rabbids?
I think this is one thing we kind of diverged on a little bit. I kind of like it when Mario gets oddly orchestral.
Okay, I don't think it's never bad. It's never bad. It was just it feels very Banjo-Kazooie and like Grunty the witch is going to pop out. I mean, it's Kurt Cope.
Kazooie from it.
It's Grant
Is it
Kirkhope.
literally that guy? That's
It's
funny.
literally that. I'm like, I was on the stream by myself, like on my own channel on the weekend, and I'm like, this sounds like some Kirkhope-esque Kirkhope music. I wouldn't be surprised if it was him. And someone came out in the chat, they're like, and featuring legendary composer Grant Kirkhope, who previously worked on Banjo-Kazooie and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, I could hear his music in there instantly.
Sure.
It's never bad. It just felt...
It's different.
It took a while to get used to. It's not Mario music.
No.
It's not Mario music.
The boss fight music is really cool sometimes.
Yes. I think I've only seen the one so far.
Hey, well, at least it's not like New Super Mario Brothers music. At least there's not a bunch of wah-wahs in there.
That's true. God, man.
Can you imagine if every 15 seconds, like, you're playing your turn and it goes, wah-wah, the characters are like,
Speaking of shit being driven into the ground, man, they need to leave that stuff behind.
Do you think they could? Can they make another New Super Mario Brothers?
I mean,
I think they're going to be tempted as hell to make one for the Switch.
They definitely will be, but fuckers, come on! Like, just do like anything. Just do Mario Mania.
At least I'll tell you honestly, like, at least make a new 2D Mario game, but please, like, don't use those 3D sprites. Yeah, but like, use pixels again. Have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Super Mario Maker, right? Like, you could use either like original Mario 3, Mario World, or New Super Mario Bros. Whoever wanted to use the New Super Mario Bros?
No one.
Like,
Psychopaths.
You would do it sometimes because that was the only one that had the wall jumps, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, and the spin jump or whatever. Like, you could stall and stuff. But it was like, that's the only reason to go there. No one likes it. Like, literally just psychopaths are like, this is my favorite. And like, no get away from me.
Even Super Mario Run, I'm like, oh, great, this shit again.
They have,
wah.
just get creative and no more wah-wahs. Wah. All right, Mike. Now I'm depressed thinking about New Super Mario being. They're all a bunch of those are really good games, and I like them all through of it. But I don't want to see it.
Good. I can't tell you anything about them individually anymore. I think the Wii U one had squirrels and the other one didn't.
Yeah, flying squirrels, and then the New Super Mario Brothers 2 on 3DS or whatever it was all about coins, all about gold coins. We're gonna go.
They tried something. We gotta do something. It's all about coins. I don't care.
That's the worst one. Out of all of them.
The first one I think would be pretty rough to go back to.
The first one was never good. It was a B game. It was like
now that's never good too.
Yeah, it was like an 8 out of like 10 at the time, and now it's like straight not good. Yeah, like they just didn't like the level design on it was garbage. It was so like boring. Like you never like you had to like
just really laying on there.
I know. I never liked that. Like you had to just an example. Like in all Mario games, the ways to to do the best in the levels always existed in the levels, except for maybe sometimes some secret entrances where you're like, oh, I have the tail, now I can go back and do this stuff. But you could also usually find the tail in those levels. In this one, almost all the time, it's like you had to have the mini mushroom, and you could only find the mini mushroom in very specific places, and then you had to go back and do the secret entrances, and it was never fun or discovery. It was just like, okay, now I finally have this thing I've needed for forever.
The first one got a pretty big pass because it was a big novelty at that time to have a 2D Mario game. Yeah. Then the Wii one was cool because it was 4 players.
And it was good.
The level design was much better.
Oh, yeah. And then
it was like, okay, we're really sick of this.
Yeah, the 3D, the Wii U one was also good, not as good as the Wii one, but still pretty good.
Yeah, it was real good, but it also came out after the 3DS one. It was like, for God's sake. And it was like also kind of touted as the Wii U like big launch title. It was kind of like disappointing to be just playing fucking 2D Mario. I was like, this is exciting, right?
Yep. So beyond the spin-offs, the core Mario games, 3D Mario seems to be perfectly okay, but in a perfectly fine place. Super Mario Maker, I think, did right by that series, but I want to see something new in the 2D, and I want it to be super creative. Nintendo, I know you're listening.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
Let's wrap this shit up. Mike, why don't you tell people where they could find you on this here internet?
Well, you can find me at GamesBeat.com.
Now, it says here, nowhere I'm a ghost. On the rundown.
I wrote that last week. Where can you find me? Nowhere I'm a ghost. For some reason, I think ghosts are so funny.
Ghosts are really funny.
Make me laugh. Just like say something about ghosts. You'll get me going. Okay. Yeah, find me there. Also, I do the Exploding Barrel podcast every week with my brother. We just had our 10th year anniversary show last week, so check that one out. That's at ebpodcast.com.
It was nuts to hear you guys run down the history and where everything was when that podcast started.
Yeah, it was like the George W. Bush presidency was going on.
Yeah, holy hell.
the #1 movie when our first episode came out in 2007 was Superbad. So, well, fun times.
Yep. Old stuff
I was
now.
20. I was a kid.
That's really strange. Like to think like you were ever 20, let alone doing that podcast.
Oh, Jeff, I felt like I was 20 up until I turned 30. That's the funny thing about it.
Yep. No, I know. Yeah, I know
That's
exactly how
how
you
it
feel.
goes.
At a certain point, you're just always like 27, and it's like you look at the date and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. I sometimes make videos on my YouTube page, youtube.com/JeffreyGrubb. I'm on GamesBeat. Get me there. Always writing there every day. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. Mike, until next time, why don't we say goodbye to the good folks who have listened to us thus far?
Hey, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thumbs up.